All right, like everything we've talked about, we can never forget about the power of the situation. So our personality affects the situation and is not just a function of the situation. So if you think about your Facebook timeline or your Instagram feed or your Twitter feed, your websites, your music list, your choices of ringtone tone, these all affect your personality. But these choices also shape how others treat you, which in turn might affect your personality. So for instance, the room that this guy is in may reflect the personality of the guy who lives there. The setup, the contents, the shape of the room may also shape his personality. What does our classroom say about my personality? Okay, so this is where the social cognitive perspective kind of came in. Albert Bandura, remember he was our Bobo Guy doll. He was all about this idea of observational learning, and he was also a behaviorist, so he was definitely involved in this idea of conditioning and reinforcements and things like that. Said that the result of an interaction, that personality is a result of the interaction that takes place between a person and their learning and social context, their behavior, involving how we think, our cognition about ourselves and our situations. So questions raised in this perspective were things like, how do we interpret and respond to external events? How do those responses shape us? How do our memories, expectations, schemas influence our behavior patterns? And how do the personality and social environments mutually influence each other? So one of his major things was something called reciprocal determinism. Okay, and he this is what he called this process of interacting with our environment. And basically he said that there are three factors: behavior, cognition, and environment, and they interlock determinants of each other's behavior. So our internal cognitive factors influence our environmental factors, which influence our behavior, which then can influence what our internal cognitive factors are. And so it's kind of this back and forth kind of cyclical cycle that continues. Okay, so make sure you understand reciprocal determinism and the three factors: behavior, cognition, and environment. Now, there's also specific ways in which individuals and environments interact. So, for instance, different people choose different environments. The school you attend and the music you listen to are partially based on your dispositions. Okay, your personality shapes how you react to events. Anxious people react to situations differently than calm people. And your personalities shape your situations. How you view and treat people influences how they treat you back. So again, Bandura really emphasized this idea of kind of this constant interaction between who you are and the environment, and then how those work on each other. So this is kind of, this biopsychosocial approach to psychology, to personality. You have these biological influences, you have these psychological influences, and you have the social cultural influences as well. And all of these things kind of work together to shape your personality. Now, internal versus external locus of control is something else that the social cultural perspective kind of talks about. And this is the idea that our perception of where the seat of power over our lives is located. You have this internal locus of control. We feel that we are in charge of ourselves and our circumstances, versus the external. We picture that a force outside of ourselves controls our fate. Now, too much internal, we blame ourselves for bad events, and we have the illusion that we have the power to prevent bad things. Too much external is we lose initiative, we lose motivation to achieve, we have more anxiety about what might happen to us, and we don't bother developing willpower. So you definitely want to find a balance between, where your locus of control is. You don't want to be too dominant on either side, and you have to be realistic. Now, learned helplessness versus personal control. Remember, we talked about learned helplessness before. Martin Seligman with his dogs, where he kind of induced learned helplessness into them. So, you have this uncontrollable bad events, they lead to perceived lack of control, and then there's generalized helpless behavior. Well, this kind of has to do, with personal control as well. We can develop learned helplessness, which also can skew our idea of personal control as well. Now, pessimism and optimism also play a role. There are people who are excessive pessimists. I can't do it, I might as well forget it, versus excessive optimism, which is, it will be easy, I won't think about it. Okay, versus realism, which is, it might be hard, I'd better plan better. Okay, excessive pessimism, I'm trapped, I can't get out. Someone will rescue me, or just, I want to make changes or get out. Okay, versus excessive pessimism, that person hates me, he's against me, versus I'm sure he just wants what's best for me, I'll trust him, versus I should ask what he feels about me, what he wants. Okay, so realism is kind of the ideal here. You don't want to be excessively optimism, you don't want to be excessively pessimism, you want to be realistic. Okay. Now, positive psychology is kind of rooted out of this social cognitive perspective. And again, Martin Seligman, who earlier kept his dogs from escaping his shocks until they developed learned helplessness, also started to develop this idea of positive psychology, which is the scientific study of optimal human functioning, finding ways to help people thrive. So the focus here is building strengths, virtue, emotional well-being, resilience, optimism, and sense of meaning. Okay, and the three pillars of positive psychology are emotions, e.g., engagement, character, or groups, culture, and institutions. All right, so these are kind of the overview of the major theories of personality. So make sure you know and understand these: psychoanalytic, psychodynamic, humanistic, trait, and social cognitive. Okay, make sure you're also familiar with the main names, okay, what their assumptions about how personality develops are, what their views of personality are, and then also the personality assessment methods that they use. All right, so next time we are going to be talking about the self.
Can I take one? Can I take a video?